What to do, what to do, what to do. Thank you for tuning in to Therapy Hub, another episode from me to you. We're here to transform the mind and heal the soul. I want to welcome everybody back to the show. Today, we're going to be diving into a very, very, very powerful and deeply relevant topic. Now, unsafe people is basically what we're talking about, and the value of relationships, as you all know. This was inspired by the work of Dr. Henry Cloud, okay, and Dr. John Townsend, who wrote the book to save people, as I showed you guys last time on the screen. And their insights challenge us to kind of look not only at the people around us, but also at the patterns and the way that we may also participate in ourselves. So, because like I said before in the last episode, a lot of the patterns that we go through, a lot of the things that we do go through in life, because we're so used to following one another and we're so used to being influences to one another, it actually sometimes some of these unsafe people that we're around can sometimes cause us to be that unsafe person as well. So this is why I wanted to talk about this, because this will help us stay away from those people and also prevent us from being those that person ourselves or those people ourselves. Now, in the last episode, we talked about the unsafe abandoners. Okay, now those who don't know what the abandoner is, I defined it last time, but I'll explain it to you once more. And it's quite common sense, but for those who don't know, it's an abandoner is somebody who pulls away when connections needed the most, and um, they also deal with fear, past wounds. They nudge us in that same direction. So because of their dealing with those issues, they tend to always leave and not wanting to stay around, or not wanting to take care of whatever responsibilities that they have or whatever situation that they have to encounter. And we also talked about facing fears. Now, abandoners could be one barrier that causes us to not face our fears, because we, instead of us facing our fears and dealing with our problems, we run away from them. So this is something else that we talked about as well. Now, this conversation opened the door to something deeper. Okay, now we recognized the unsafe people, but that isn't just about others, it's also about self-awareness as well. So like I said, we had the three different types of people, our three different types of main unsafe people, and then we got into we're going to get into some characteristic traits, and I think we spoke a little bit about that as well. But we also talked about self-awareness, so just kind of being aware of these things to help us kind of make the right decisions in life. Okay, now in today's episode, we're going to continue that journey, but instead, we're going to explore what makes someone unsafe and how to recognize the signs earlier. Okay, and most importantly, how to protect your peace without losing, capacity to love and respect for the other person. Because the main thing in life, and I always tell people this, and people always like, "Oh, well, you're antisocial, and you don't want to talk," and and it's not about me being antisocial. There's a time and place for things, and when people are going through things or they're dealing with certain situations, they don't want to be bothered. And when they don't want to be bothered, they kind of protect their peace. So sometimes people protect their peace versus them. Sometimes we may feel like we're coming off arrogant, or we may feel we're coming off antisocial, or we may feel like that we're coming off distant from people. But the actual truth and reality is that we're just protecting our peace. Now, the goal isn't perfection here. Okay. And I just wanted to get that out of the way, because sometimes in life, we we have these things that we're, these inspiration, motivational quotes that we listen to, these books that we read. And when we read them, we have such a difficult time in applying it and actually doing the things that we read, because we feel that some of the stuff may be unrealistic, some of the stuff may not be to suit that may not suit to your need, or sometimes you may not be as motivated. But for the most part, the reason why that is happening, um is because of perfection. We know that perfection, life is not perfect. We cannot be perfect. So whenever we're trying to make changes or whatever we're trying to, apply these tools and these strategies to cope with our mental health and other things, we got to realize that, hey, look, we're going to have hiccups, we're going to run into maybe, um a relapse or whatever the situation, and it could be anything. Like for me, a relapse for me would be um getting involved in criminal activity and also losing my cool, because I everybody that knows me knows that I could have a great temper. I could have a temper. Okay, so based on that, I have to understand that I'm not going to be perfect. I can relapse. It can be a day where somebody tries to test me and I may fail, right? There may be a day where I may feel a little overwhelmed of a situation and I may explode and I may not be able to deal with the situation. So I have to always keep that in mind, that those things can happen, because sometimes when they do and I'm trying to change, like now I'm trying to change and I'm doing all these things, and then something happens that I'm not happy with myself about, I let myself down sometimes, and I'm like, I can't do that. I got to remember, look, Daru, you're not perfect. You're going to relapse. You're going to make mistakes. But the most important thing is being aware of it and wanting to make the change. Okay. So just know that perfection isn't always everything. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what, most of whatever we're talking about in these episodes, what you'll take from it. Most of the time, it's about growth and clarity, and also building relationships. I always talk about that. If you watch a lot of my segments and a lot of my reels, and I talk about how I became successful in my business, and that's because I was able to build relationships. In order for you to be successful, you have to build relationships, the right relationships, but you have to be able to value those relationships. So this is why I'm pretty much doing this. Another reason why I'm doing this, because we're kind of setting everybody up for success and knowing that it all starts with us, the surroundings and who we surround ourselves with. Okay. Now, building relationships is one thing, but building them in rooted safety is another thing. So we got to know that we got to plant the root and then keep it safe. It's like watering a plant, right? When you plant your seed, you got to make sure that your plant is protected and it's, it gets lots of light, and it grows, it gets lots of water. That's the same thing that we have to do with ourselves. I remember I did a interview with um Kevin Ormsby, who is a an African American dance instructor here in Toronto, and he has a lot of political, or I shouldn't say political, but revolutionary and political views and points um, that he lives by. And I had to get him on my show because he's perfect to listen to. Any young man that's going through any mental health situation, Kevin would be the best person to listen to. And he explained in my documentary that in life, we got to understand how plants grow. People got to understand how trees grow. When trees grow together, they grow cohesively. They grow together all in one. They're taken care of cohesively. But the only reason for that to happen, because it was formed by a community, and the community kept, you know, they grow together. Trees, plants, they grow cohesively. And in life, if we treat ourselves that way, then we will grow together and we'll value each other more, because we got to learn that in order to build a community, in order to build a strong village, to build a strong core, you have to grow cohesively. Okay. So and that was beautiful the way he explained that in the documentary, because we sometimes have these issues with school, right? With our children in school, with our children in the communities, and our children with the daycare teachers and the babysitters, and we don't realize that these people are also parenting our children. These people are also involved in our children's lives, regardless if we like it or not. So, how do we involve everybody, and how do we get everybody together to understand what it takes to raise a child, what it takes to build a community. And that's the main thing that we wanted to talk about today. Now, before I go any further, I want to dive into a video. We got two videos here. But first, I wanted to say there's been some breaking news, and I don't really want to bring it up in Therapy Hub, but I thought, you know what, I think this would be a good time to bring it up because of the fact of everything that's going on, and we just kind of need more love, and we need to learn to, money's not everything, and sometimes people just need to learn to learn the basic things in life, okay, that will keep you away from trouble. My father always told me, keep a friend, never borrow, never lend. You want to keep a friend? Never borrow, never lend. Because what happens is that gets in between your relationships, and then things happen. And according to reports, little TJ and Offset were friends at one point of a time, and there was a debt owed to TJ from Offset, and apparently Offset has been really down these days. He hasn't been, making as much money as he used to, and he's gambling his money away. And apparently he went to the casino to try to win some money, lost, and he wasn't able to pay little TJ his money back. An altercation broke out at the casino. Little TJ showed up at the casino. An altercation broke out at the casino. Shots were fired, and Offset was shot. We're going to take a quick peek at the video, and then we're going to jump back into our topic. Second here.
Also now at 11, we're hearing from rapper Offset for the first time since he was shot at Hard Rock Casino. Seminole police say another rapper, Little TJ, ordered people in his entourage to attack Offset, who was once, of course, married to Cardi B. CBS News Miami's Chelsea Jones is your reporter live in Hollywood. She is at Memorial Regional Hospital, where Offset is still being treated tonight. Chelsea.
Yeah, Jim, we have been here for several hours, and we have actually seen several of his associates outside of the emergency room behind me. Right now, at this hour, things are quiet here, but like you said, at this point, we believe that he is still here being treated for his injuries.
Kiari Cephas, best known as rapper Offset, seen for the first time in these photos smoking outside of Memorial Regional Hospital. He's also speaking for the first time on social media since being shot Monday at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. The Atlanta rapper commented, "You ain't bust nothing," in response to this.
Offset. He would never play with me like that in his life.
That's Tion Merritt, also known as rapper Lil TJ. Seminole police accuse him of ordering his entourage to attack Offset at the valet of the casino. They charged him with disorderly conduct. He was released Tuesday afternoon.
The last thing I seen was Offset looking at me like this. Yo, that nigga shot me. That shot me. La la la. A rat, a cat. Weirdos.
In this video, you can see a man lying on the ground with an officer on top of him, while police struggled to restrain another. TMZ snapped these pictures showing Offset on a stretcher, wounded. Paramedics took him to the hospital with non-life-threatening wounds. At this time, no one has been charged with pulling the trigger. Police say they are still looking. Tuesday morning on social media, Lil TJ's lawyer posted a statement addressing what she calls false rumors that Lil TJ was involved in a shooting. The question that remains is why all this happened in the first place. CBS News Miami asked Lil TJ as he left jail.
Does somebody owe you money?
Ask Offset.
He owe you money?
Ask Offset.
Do you have issues with Offset?
Hell no.
Offset was married to popular rapper Cardi B. The two share 3 children. Offset's shooting comes just shy of 2 years since his brother and fellow Migo Takeoff was shot and killed in Houston.
And while Lil TJ was charged with disorderly conduct, Seminole police say the shooter has still not been caught. Live from outside of Memorial Regional Hospital, I'm Chelsea Jones, CBS.
All right, so little TJ has been charged with disorderly conduct in the shooting matter of Offset, but has not been actually charged for the shooting of Offset, and they believe that the actual shooter is still at large. So once again, guys, I just wanted to do a very quick topic, or sorry, very quick, brief comment on this, and I just kind of feel that a lot of this, like even when these guys are calling each other rats and snitches and stuff like that, like a lot of these guys rat on themselves. So if you rat on yourselves, what does that make you? Are you a rat too? Are you a snitch? Oh, you're not, because you never ratted on somebody else. You only ratted on yourself. So then you're not valuable. You don't value yourself. You value other people more than you value yourself. It doesn't make sense to me. So I kind of feel, and then going on there and saying, hey, he's a weirdo, he's a clown, and this and that, it just doesn't help you in court. Okay. And guys, I just wanted to say, like, please stop trying to make everything seem like it's okay. There's a lot of things out there that we're doing that is not okay and that is not right. Okay. Now, somebody owes you $10,000. Fine. You're going to want the money back. A fight may break out. However, because I've had people owe me thousands of dollars, and I went back to get my money and I end up in jail. So how did, like, and then the same people who robbed me turn around and said, I robbed them. How does that work? How does it work? Like life, this is why I say everything in life, you have to be careful on what you do. There's a consequence for every action. Okay. So, little TJ, if you're watching Therapy Hub today, please, I ask, next time, make smarter decisions, right? If you know the guy owes you money, you're a big rap star. Why would you even go there yourself? Like all this tough guy stuff to be tough, and it doesn't make any sense, because then if you want to be tough and you want to be a gangster, stay in the streets. Leave the industry alone. The industry is supposed to be for people who get out and want to stay out. And that can be a positive influence to other people that are from the hood and that want to get out. See my shirt here? We will never cancel our culture. Never cancel our culture. But what will get canceled is our behavior and the way that, and our professionalism. You see, gangsters don't have to act illiterate. Gangsters don't have to act uneducated. Gangsters don't have to act like they have no damn sense. As a matter of fact, a gangster has the most sense. A gangster is supposed to outsmart everybody. That's why he's a gangster. So please, I urge everybody, before you get into the game, sit down and think and read over what the rules in the games are and what the game is about. Because a lot of these guys sign up for it, and then when something happens, this goes for Offset too. When something happens, we just had another incident with Gucci Man and Pooh Shiesty. Now, where's Pooh Shiesty? Behind bars. After he was just released. Everybody thought Gucci Man was this solid rapper. He's a big-time gangster. Then he ends up telling. Now, y'all might hate me for this. But there's some times in life where you have to go to the police. There's some things in life where you have to go. As an adult, especially as a civilian. Now, Gucci Man wasn't a civilian. He was proclaiming gangsterism. He was still in the streets. He was still doing things, signing people from the streets. This is why I don't primarily co-sign any rappers that I know that are involved in any criminal activity. I just can't do it. If I know you're involved in anything criminal, I don't want anything to do with you. Reason for being that is because I live a different life. I'm in a different path. So if I continue to stay in that path, you're a product of your environment. You're gonna stay in that path. Okay. So long story short, little TJ, Gucci Man, please, and Offset, please really take some time to think about why you're coming into the game. Think about, what is it that you're doing? There's only two outcomes to this game: death or in jail. Okay. This is why I don't respect a lot of these rappers. I'll be quite honest with you. I don't respect them because they have money, and they have the opportunity to change the way things are, but instead they want to make it worse. They want to still encourage and still create. That's not what this canceling culture is about. Okay, so just remember that. And for those out there, for those who are out there that think that this gangster life is what you want, think about the end result. Think about when you're 50, 60 years old, what are you going to do? Are you going to still sit there? Like everybody looks up to Fat Joe and all these guys. These guys are 60 years old and rich, bro. Rich. Don't listen to nobody unless they're telling you positive things about money, how to make money. And you know what I noticed too? A lot of these guys don't do that. They sit up there and talk about how much money they have, how much money they got, but none of them actually sit there and tell you what it took for them to get that. Okay? Please, young kids out there too, think about the people that you're looking up to. Really consider the people that you're looking up to, and don't go follow anybody. Okay? And also evaluate people for yourself, because people always say, oh, don't listen to this guy. He's this and he's that. And then you sit down and you listen to the guy, and the guy actually makes more sense than what the other guy's telling you. So your job should just be to evaluate, and this is what we're talking about, all this value of relationships. Evaluate people yourself. Learn people yourself. Learn to get to know people yourself. Then you can make the decision, okay? Now, we're going to get into something very quickly. We're not going to be too long about this, because we're actually going to finish this whole value relationships today with the two last unsafe people that I had in mind. And one of them was the last two that I had in mind was the critic and the irresponsible. But I'm going to start with the critic. The irresponsible is going to be the very last person, because the abandoner and the irresponsible person are usually what happens and what you end with if you don't take care of the critic situation. Okay. Now, if that makes sense. Now, the critic is the one who constantly tears you down, disguising judgment as honesty. You got to be careful for these people, because I said there's also two kinds of people. There's people that give you constructive criticism, and there's people that don't give you constructive criticism, that give you more negative criticism. So the constructive criticism people, though, can also be a little too much for you, depending on how much times they criticize you, because usually people, they will criticize you for everything that you do, versus them saying, okay, oh, actually, I like this thing, and then giving you some constructive criticism about it. They're usually telling you not to do it in that way. Now, the critic is not something you got to really worry about too much, because they can be easily ignored. And also, the critic can also be somebody that you can learn from. So it's not really of a hard decision to make. The hard thing is what to determine if it's really good for you or not. So if it's constructive criticism or negative criticism, because people can always tend to, they like to play mind games, so they can tend to mix it up to make it seem like they're actually being positive about it, but they're actually putting you down. And those are the people that in life always are those. I'll tell you something about the critics. The critics are people who always stick to one thing. They never change. They never try new things. And quite frankly, they're not that much of adventurous people, because they always have something negative to say or to think about the situation. Okay? Those people are the ones that you generally are the people that make and break you. Okay? When it comes to having a relationship or getting to know somebody. Number one rule that I've learned that I stopped doing, I used to do all the damn time. I don't know why I'm like this. I get it from somebody in my family. It has to be my mother. Somebody, I don't know, but it drives me nuts. It's my pet peeve. And that is telling people my business. Telling people my business, telling people my problems. We have to understand that not everybody needs to know what we are going through. If they don't know, that's fine. because somehow people will eventually find out. This is why I never hold anything back. And if anybody would wanted to know anything about me, I'd tell you. Because in life, when you're honest and you're real, the truth will set you free. And let me say that one more time. When you tell the truth and you're truthful and you're real, the truth will set you free. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you got to be honest, truthful to everybody that you meet. You got to tell them your business. That's my problem. I mistake the two. Oh, well, how are you going to be an honest person? Say you're honest, but then if someone asks you something, you don't tell them because you're afraid that they're going to hurt you. That's not you not being honest. That's you protecting your peace from critics. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we can do to prevent dealing with the critic and surrounding ourselves around the critic. But for the most part, we have to understand that. Okay? And and once we get that in our mindset, then we will be able to slowly ignore the critic. Because I never used to be able to ignore the critic because I used to think the critic was telling the truth. I'd be like, yo, this critic is actually telling me the truth. And then I'm like, okay, maybe he is telling me the truth, but he doesn't really know me. So what he's basing his truth on is the situation. He's not basing it on how he knows me. He's only basing it on the situation at the time of him kind of telling me about whatever he's criticizing about whatever. So it's based on that situation. So I've learned to stop taking those things to heart. I learned to stop being so emotional and so distressed about things like that when those things happen, because at the end of the day, it's up to me to decide, okay, am I going to take that criticism, right? Am I going to use it, apply it, or am I going to just let it go in one ear and out the other? This is somebody that you can have full control of and that you can possibly ignore. So the critic is something as an unsafe person who necessarily doesn't have to be fully in your life and will not tear you down, because they're just telling you something based on how they feel. Okay? Not based on you. You matter. We're going to get into the irresponsible person. Now, when I read this book, I had to give my head a shake. Because I was like, damn, I think I'm irresponsible. There's a lot of things that I did in my life that I could not now, and now I could understand that my first baby mother. The other two they had a good father. But my first baby mother, I was young. Okay. So I could understand on how, but by reading this book, on how she may feel that I may have been a little irresponsible in a lot of things. However, she was irresponsible in a lot of things too by reading this book. So it takes two to tango. However, I'm going to take accountability and say that I did have a lot of irresponsibility traits. Now, the irresponsible person is one who avoids accountability. Okay, so that's number one. So I've actually gotten rid of that part of me because I learned to take accountability. Because when you take accountability for certain things, or when you take accountability for everything that you do, what happens is it allows you to be open-minded. It allows you to be more therapeutic when it comes to situations and more easily to understand certain situations. Okay, because you're not always blaming the others. You're not always pointing the finger at somebody else. You're taking accountability for yourself. You're saying, look, I was wrong. I did this, and and I talked about accountability throughout this episode many, many times about everything, about the people I hung around with, even being wrongfully convicted, but still taking accountability for being guilty because I was guilty by association. Okay, that's accountability. Um, you know, raising my children, how I raised my children, that's accountability. Okay, um, the mistakes I made in life, and doing this show is accountability. So it hurts me when you see me, and quite frankly, man, like I said, over time the truth gets revealed, because I'm up here saying, hey guys, look, yeah, okay, this is what's being said about me. This is why my kids are saying that I wasn't always there for them, and this is why I'm saying this and that and the third, because these are the things that transpired and that happened throughout the time. Okay, but one thing that I did do is take accountability for all those things, but nobody else has. Everyone's still pointing a finger at me saying, you're bad. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault. And I sat there and I took it all. I said, okay, fine. It's my fault. It's my fault. Okay, this is my fault. But still, none of them can take accountability to why they held my kids against my will, why they, cheated on me with my father's best friend and this and that and the third. Like, I can go on for days. Okay. And you're probably like, what? Yeah. But not to this day, I heard an accountability for it. I never heard, hey, you know what? I'm sorry for what I did to you. That must have hurt you. Can we move on with raising your kid? It was just like, nope, we're taking your kid away from you now. And now you're going to leave me for somebody else. And I don't care. And I'm going to make your life a living hell. So when you go through these things in life, you learn responsibility. You learn accountability. You learn, okay, you know what? If they're not going to take accountability, if no one else is going to, own up to their mistakes, because somebody can't always be in the wrong when it comes to a situation all the time, right? If some person can be wrong in a situation when it happens once or twice, but all the time, then that there's, it takes two. Okay. Now, the other thing about the irresponsible person is that they shift blame. Okay. They shift blame, and instead of them saying, okay, look, I am at fault for this, they shift the blame and blame it on you. And this is back to dealing with, some of the situations from my past relationship, is where, like, it's like, okay, because I even had to talk to my therapist recently, right? Because I had a recent situation where I had a married woman that wanted to be involved with me, and I didn't want to get involved with her. And I had to tell myself, I did sleep with her, but I didn't want to get involved with her. And she wanted more. She wanted more. She wanted to, like, leave her things here and stuff and I just couldn't do that, because in my mind, especially dealing with mental health and helping other men, I've been through the same thing as I just told you, right? My father's best friend, rest in peace, right? So when I think about those things, I say, yo, there's something about this whole situation that made me feel the way I feel now. And that's because the blame was shifted towards me. The blame was shifted. Like, it was like, okay, you can't get your kids this weekend, it's your fault. Okay, you can't do this weekend, it's your fault. And some of the times it was not my fault. There was other men involved. And, my daughter, I just listened to a message my daughter left me a few months ago. I never listened to it because she hasn't called me in 2-3 years, but she calls me to argue with me and leaves me a message. And in the message, she states her stepfather put his hands on her. Drop in the comments, guys, what would you do if your daughter left that comment and said that their stepfather had put their hands on you, and that all he does is bad talk you without him even knowing who you are. I've met this guy maybe twice. Once at my daughter's birthday party when I was released from prison, and before that, that was it. I never met this guy at all. But he always had something negative to say about me, and that's always based on the blame that their mother was putting on me, saying your father was in jail. Your father. Listen, I seen Pressa the other day. Shout out Pressa, man. He's doing big things too, man. Shout out the machine. You already know, boy. My brother knows his brother and stuff like that. I went to school with those guys. My brother went to Westview. But when Pressa said, my father raised me in prison. That's what Pressa said. His father raised him in prison. He doesn't have any type of hard feelings. So he may feel like, oh, you know what, Dad, I wish you were there. You know what I mean? I wish you were here with me. I wish you were there. But in all honesty, his dad was there. It's just he was removed from the home. He was put in prison. But there's still phones. There's still visitations. You know, when I was in prison, she never brought my kids to come see me one time. I was in there for 5 years. I never had my kids brought to me one time. Okay? So that hurt me. But I didn't take that as anything. I didn't say, you know what? Because that's a long time not to see your kids, bro. Like, I was going crazy a little bit in there. Like, you can ask people in there. They're like, yo, you okay? I'm like, yo, I can't. Crying every day. Like, in jail, I didn't care. Man, tell me I'm crying and call me this and that. It's a thing. So, right? So I cry every day. Cry. And that was it. That's all. I had to let it out. But that's the only way I was able to let it out because, you know, I couldn't see them. But for him to say that his father's been in prison since he was like 10, I think. He was like a baby. Like my kids, I've been involved with my kids' life since the day they were born. Since the day they came out of the hospital, I'm rocking them, okay? From the day they came out the hospital. So, you know, a real deadbeat dad is somebody that their kids are born. Oh, yeah, okay. Don't show up at the hospital. Don't do nothing, okay? The day my kids came out the hospital, they were well taken care of. My family took care of them. They had a roof over their head. As a matter of fact, she lived with me in my home. So, but there's going to be some more. and there's going to be, and this is therapy for me. As you see, I'm letting it out because I'm like, yo, wait a minute. I'm taking accountability for a lot of these things. I wasn't perfect, guys. Okay. I was young. I was 17 years old when I had my daughter. I wasn't financially stable. So I wasn't like a big drug dealer. You know what I mean? That wasn't like, that's another thing. Like my family, they wanted me out there to sell. They're like, go sell drugs then. Like I wanted to make the best out of my life. Right. So it took some time because I was trying to figure some things out. I was like, where do I go from here? What do I do? Right? What am I like? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish here? What do I want in my life? And it really took me some time to really sit down and think. And I'll tell you the time that it really changed me was when I went to prison for 5 years for the crime I did not commit, wrongfully convicted. Okay. That changed my life because I said, whoa, I'm in here for something I never did based on somebody else's actions. Okay. So I got to take accountability here. Where was I wrong? 1, the crowd. 2, the environment. 3, who I was around. Crowd, environment, all, but because it could be separate, right? So all that made me realize that, hey, you know what? As much as I was innocent, I didn't do anything. I shouldn't have been around the people that I was around, family or not. It just wasn't the smartest thing to do at that time. Okay, so that's my accountability. Where's yours? I want somebody to, whoever wrongfully accused me, to come on here and tell me your accountability, and let's work this out as a therapy hub. You know who you are. There's a few of you. Okay? So I want you guys to come out, because everything I've done in my life, I've held accountability. If I've hurt somebody, I've tried to make amends with them. I've made amends with them. Trust me, my worst enemy, okay? Me and my worst enemy are now friends. We're not friends, but we're friends. Like if we see each other, hey, what's up? Last time we seen each other, we aided each other. We took care of each other. My worst enemy, he almost killed my friend. My worst enemy. Okay? And because of that, I thought to myself, I said, wait a minute. I said, oh my God, my worst enemy is now my friend? Like, I know him, not my friend, but I know him. Like, we're cool now. There's no beef. I squashed the beef with everybody, so none of the other guys have to worry about running into them and anything happening. That's done. We were able to hash it out, get it out, and it's done. So I've tried to make amends and accountability, and took accountability for everything that I've done. Your turn. And I'm not just talking about those who, this is a part of the therapy hub session today, not for those who wrongfully accuse me, but for other people out there as well that are going through what I'm going through. Or, you know, anybody else, or you put somebody through something that you don't really like or you don't want to say. Because I'll tell you something, the worst thing you could do is wrongfully accuse somebody of something that they never done. That's the worst thing. Take accountability. Okay? So I'm urging you today, because this episode will be up. And if you're watching, or if you're subscribing, or if you know that I'm doing my podcast, please do a comment and let's move on with our lives. But everybody needs to know that you didn't tell the truth, and that there has to be accountability for that. Right? Because everybody out here wants to talk about me. So let's talk about it. That's my therapy for the day, guys. But once again, guys, right? These things will help us grow as people with knowing, especially accountability, because sometimes when you take accountability and you can move on, right? You could be like, oh, okay, like I actually took accountability to this. I'm actually, I actually feel that, yeah, you know, I was wrong in this situation, or you know, this is where I was wrong. I think I can move on now. And you don't worry about the other person, even if they're not apologetic, or if they don't take any accountability. You don't worry about them because you have, right? This is why I sat here and said, look, guys, it's been years I've been taking accountability. When is people going to take accountability? When are they going to say, look, I hurt that guy, man. You know what, buddy? I'm sorry. This is what Therapy Hub is. I want that to happen. I want someone to be like, you know what? I hurt you. Can I come on your show? Let's talk about the situation, because I would love to, because this is the only way we're going to grow. This is the only way we're going to help each other. This is the only way we're going to change the community. Okay? Because people are going to say, look, man, I don't want to hurt nobody, or I don't want to hurt. Like, why? Oh, man, look what that guy went through. Right? And I'll make a promise to whoever, there will be no account, there will be no nothing further to get you in trouble for perjury or anything like that, if you are interested. Okay? It's just us talking about the situation and moving past so we can move forward with our lives. Okay? Because I think people need to know the truth. All right? But other than that, right? Accountability is the most important thing when it comes to the irresponsible person. And also, just dealing with the situation and the mess that you got to clean up all the time. The irresponsible person, I would say, out of the abandoner, the critic, and the irresponsible, I would say the irresponsible probably would be the worst person to deal with, because the abandoner can always abandon you and then you can always move on. However, it's still it sinks more. It's more of a root cause, I think. But the irresponsible is something that kind of like will keep us in our will keep us like it will drive our insanity, past its normal capacity if we allow it, and if we're not aware of what an irresponsible person is. Okay, let's get into this video. This is not by John Maxwell. This is one of his. I think this is I forgot his name. Chris Giotti, and he is, I believe it's Chris. If I'm not mistaken, Chris, please, I will put it in the description. But he is the executive vice president of the Maxwell Leadership Organization. So over the times of the value of the relationship, we've been watching Maxwell, John Maxwell's Minute with Maxwell videos of just quick descriptions of the individuals are, kind of branching what I'm talking about, kind of. And he explains it very, very well. For those who don't know who John Maxwell is, he is a leader, and he's also a CEO and executive for many, many organizations, but one being his own, and it's the Maxwell Leadership Organization. And what he does is he helps build leaders. So he helps build good speakers. And if you notice, my communication skills are getting a little bit better. It's because I'm listening to John Maxwell a lot. He has communication skills seminars and things like that. There's a lot of stuff that he does. So I hope that if you guys can go and subscribe to John and also watch a few of his films, okay? Because especially the Minute with Maxwell, because you will definitely learn how to become a great leader by his advice and his influence. So we're going to get into his video by his vice president, and we'll go from there, okay? We'll be back.
Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Giotti with Maxwell Leadership. Thank you for joining me on Minute with Maxwell. Today's word is one of my favorites: consistency. I've been in organizations with inspiring values that are on the wall, but they're completely different than what's being lived out in the hallway. That's where culture is vague and breaks down. You see, culture doesn't fail because of bad intentions of the leaders and of the people. It fails because of inconsistent leadership. Harvard Business Review reminds us that people don't follow statements, they follow patterns, they follow behaviors. So what leaders repeatedly model actually is going to become the culture. So here's my challenge for you today. I want you to identify one value you must live more consistently. Culture becomes real when leadership behavior matches the leadership language. Thank you for joining me today on Minute with Maxwell.
Beautiful. Well said. And there you have it. Consistency, guys. So we're going to talk about that in our next show for Therapy Hub. We're going to talk about consistency and also transparency. So we're going to talk about a lot of things like that and how that can help you as well with the situations that we're dealing with. But for all in all, guys, this kind of concludes our segment on the value of relationships. I thank so much for everybody that has been watching us and has been liking and subscribing our show. Before we go, I just want to shout out our sponsors. One of our sponsors is Bark and Scratch Pet Foods Ltd, located at 2404 Danforth Avenue. And you can get, good quality pet food and supplies there. And of course, if you use our promo code Amptv, you will receive 10% off all items. Once again, that is Bark and Scratch Pet Foods Ltd, located at 2404 Danforth Avenue. Use promo code AMPTV for 10% off all supplies. But hurry up, it's for a limited time only. Now, we also want to just let you know that we have launched our clothing company, our merch. So Therapy Hub, Amptv will be having some merch added to our screen here for our next segment, but also we'll also have our store added for an easy link from our QR code link as well. But for the most part, you can see the address right here at the bottom, www.theappstore.com, where you can go in and find all type of merchandise from hats, hoodies, tote bags, earbud, what do you call those things? Cases, electronics. There's going to be tons of stuff in that store. So, if you're looking for great deals and good quality gear and apparel, head on down to theappstore.com and we'll be more than happy to help you. And you can also receive 10% discount as well by watching our show. If you purchase anything on the App Store, you can receive a 15% off all of our classic AVX hats. And that, once again, that's only if you type in the promo code Therapy Hub. Okay, so if you want 15% off our AVX baseball caps, all you got to do is go to our store on our website at www.theappstore.com and type in Therapy Hub, and you'll get 15% off. All right. Now, that's going to be the end of today's episode. My hope is that you walk away today with greater clarity and confidence in how you identify and respond to unsafe people in your life. Okay. Now, you're going to be able to recognize key patterns like avoidance, inconsistency, emotional withdrawal. So this is why I played consistency, that video with consistency, because inconsistency is a part of this, and emotional withdrawal, and understanding how they impact your relationships. Okay. But more importantly, you'll gain insight into your own tendencies, and especially if you ever found yourself leaning toward abandonment or pulling back when things feel overwhelming. Okay. Now, this conversation is about empowerment, and it's helping you set a healthier boundaries and making your wiser relational choices and move toward connections that are unsafe, mutual, and life-giving. Okay, because awareness is the first step, but intentional change is where real growth begins. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have yourself a great day, and always remember, peace and love.